If you are married and you have ever looked at your spouse and quietly wondered, is oral intimacy a sin in marriage? You are not alone. That question carries so much weight for so many Christians. Thousands of believers are asking it right now, but most sermons, most Bible studies, most Christian conversations never touch it. So today we are going straight to Scripture to answer it clearly, honestly, and without shame. What does the Bible really say about oral sex in marriage? More importantly, how can you know for sure whether it glorifies God in your marriage? If you are married, this is for you. If you are preparing for marriage, this will help you start well. So let's walk through this together with open Bibles and open hearts. Before we talk about what is allowed in marriage, we need to be very clear about what the Bible clearly forbids. The Bible is consistent and strong on this point. Sex outside of marriage is always sinful. Hebrews 13 verse 4 says, "Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral." That means premarital sex, adultery, and any sexual activity outside the covenant of marriage is not God's design. It also means that pornography, lust for someone other than your spouse, and using sex as a tool for selfish pleasure are all contrary to God's plan. If you are not married, this entire conversation about oral intimacy in marriage does not apply to you yet. God's gift of sex is for marriage alone. So if you are single, engaged, or dating, the clear biblical instruction is to wait. Keep your body pure, keep your heart pure, and save this gift for your future spouse. But if you are married, the rules change. Inside marriage, God says the marriage bed is undefiled. Inside marriage, sex is not dirty. Inside marriage, sex is a gift. So now let's look at what the Bible clearly affirms about marriage and intimacy. Inside marriage, the Bible gives us a very different picture. Marriage is not just a social contract. Marriage is a sacred covenant designed by God from the very beginning. Genesis 2 verse 24 says, "For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh." One flesh. That phrase covers emotional closeness, spiritual unity, and physical intimacy, all woven together. Sex was not invented by man. Sex was created by God, and He declared it good within marriage. Proverbs 5 verses 18 and 19 say, "Rejoice in the wife of your youth. Let her breasts satisfy you at all times. Be intoxicated always in her love." So that is not a command to be cold or distant. That is a command to delight in your spouse, to enjoy her, to be fully present with her. The Song of Songs is the most passionate book in the Bible, and it is about a husband and wife celebrating each other. It is full of desire, affection, and physical longing. And God included it in Scripture to show that marital passion is not shameful. Inside marriage, intimacy is not dirty. Inside marriage, intimacy is a gift. Inside marriage, the marriage bed is undefiled. So the question is not, is sex in marriage a sin? The question is, how do we honor God in the way we express that gift? Now we come to the heart of the question. Is oral intimacy between a husband and wife a sin in marriage? The Bible never uses the exact words oral sex or oral intimacy. So we cannot say, the Bible commands this, or the Bible forbids this, in the same way we can with adultery or premarital sex. Instead, we have to look at biblical principles and ask, does this fit within God's design for marriage and the undefiled marriage bed? Most Christian teachers and pastors agree on this point. Oral intimacy between a husband and wife is not inherently sinful. If it is between a married couple within the covenant of marriage and done with mutual consent and love, it is not a sin. The key is not the specific act, but the heart behind it. Is it done to honor and cherish your spouse? Is it done with mutual desire and comfort? Is it part of a marriage that is pure, loving, and God-honoring? If the answer is yes, then this is not a sin. If it is done selfishly, with pressure, or with a pornographic mindset, then the problem is not the act itself, but the heart and the context. So the short answer is this: oral intimacy between a husband and wife in marriage is not a sin, as long as it is loving, mutual, and within the bounds of a God-honoring marriage. Let's look at a few key passages that help us understand this. First, Genesis 1 verse 31. After God created everything, He looked at it and said, "Behold, it is very good." That includes the human body, male and female. Our bodies are not dirty. Our bodies are good, created by God for His glory. Within marriage, there is nothing about the body that is inherently shameful or off-limits in affection. Second, the Song of Songs. This book is love poetry between a husband and a wife. The bride says in chapter 2, verse 3, "I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste." And in chapter 4, verse 16, she says, "Let my beloved come into his garden and taste its choice fruits." Many scholars see this as poetic language for mutual delight in physical intimacy within marriage. God included this book to show that marital passion, desire, and pleasure are not only allowed, but celebrated when they are within the covenant. Third, 1 Corinthians 7, verses 3-5. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife. This teaches us that intimacy must be mutual. It is not about taking, it is about giving. If both husband and wife agree, find joy in it, and see it as an expression of their oneness, then it fits within this biblical principle. So the question is not, is this act forbidden? The question is, does this act express love, mutual submission, and oneness in our marriage? Even when something is not a sin, it still needs guardrails. Here are 3 biblical guardrails for any sexual intimacy in marriage, including oral intimacy. First, mutual consent and comfort. 1 Corinthians 7 makes it clear that neither spouse has authority over their own body. If one spouse feels pressured, uncomfortable, or degraded, that is not honoring God. Real love does not demand. Real love asks, listens, and respects. If your spouse is not at peace with something, do not push. Wait, talk, pray, and grow together. Second, focus on love, not just lust. Sex in marriage is not just about physical pleasure. It is about unity, intimacy, and reflecting Christ's love for the church. If the primary motive is selfish gratification, that is not honoring God. But if the motive is to cherish, delight in, and strengthen your spouse, that is honoring God. Third, keep the marriage bed pure and private. Hebrews 13 calls the marriage bed undefiled. That means it should be free from pornography, fantasy about others, and outside influences that distort God's design. Your bedroom is a sacred space for you and your spouse. Guard it, protect it, keep it holy. When intimacy is mutual, loving, and pure, it becomes a beautiful expression of God's design, not a source of guilt or shame. So what do you do if you are married and you want to honor God in your intimacy? First, talk openly and kindly with your spouse. Be honest about your desires, your boundaries, and your comfort levels. Communication is key. If one of you feels uneasy, listen. If one of you has past trauma or shame, seek wise biblical counsel. Do not ignore those wounds. Healing is possible. Second, pray together. Ask God to bless your intimacy and to keep your marriage pure. Let Him guide your hearts and your decisions. Third, never pressure your spouse. Real love gives. It never demands. If something feels forced or one-sided, stop. Wait, grow. Seek help if you need it. And remember, intimacy is not just about pleasure. It is about unity, love, and reflecting Christ's relationship with His church. If oral intimacy is something you and your spouse embrace with love and peace, receive it as part of God's gift. If not, honor God and one another by abstaining. Either way, your marriage can shine with God's love. So let's bring this to a close. The Bible does not say oral intimacy between a husband and wife is a sin in marriage. As long as it is loving, mutual, and within the covenant of marriage, it is not a sin. It is not about legalistic rules. It is about love, consent, respect, and purity. If you and your spouse both feel peace before God, enjoy this gift with thanksgiving. If you have any doubts or guilt, honor God and one another by abstaining until you are both at peace. The real question is not, is this act allowed? The real question is, does this glorify God in my marriage? If the answer is yes, receive it as part of God's good design. If not, honor God and your spouse by waiting. Your marriage can be a safe, joyful place where you express love and oneness. Do not let legalism or shame steal that gift. God created sex to be a blessing, not a burden, so walk in freedom. Walk in love and walk in truth. Thank you for watching.